Welcome to Fires on the Farm. I'm Donovan, and with me is Arnel Aguinaldo. He is the Associate Professor of Kinesiology and the Director of the Point Loma Nazarene University and San Diego Padres Biomechanics Laboratory. And he joins us here now on Fires on the Farm. Hey.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Fantastic. We're going to talk to him just after this message from Manscaped. 2024 is here in full swing, and that means it's time for a New Year's resolution check-in with our friends at Manscaped. Newsflash, it's never too late to level up your grooming game and keep your bush tamed.
Manscaped's new Lawnmower 5.0 is Ultra is every man's cheat code to look good, feel good, and turn the page on confidence this year. Whether you're going for a trim or that clean shaven look, this trimmer has you covered.
Trusted over by 10 million men worldwide, now is your time to get a grip on your grooming with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and use the code FRIARS for 20% off plus free shipping. The ball has dropped, but don't drop the ball on your balls. And I tell you, Roy, I got the gear on Friday. I leveled up on Saturday, and I used the lawnmower. Fantastic. In the past, I've used scissors. I've used a razor with varying degrees of blood and carnage.
Yeah, that's hazardous.
Very hazardous. And I was really skeptical about using them. I used the trimmer as well. Everything was fantastic, smooth, no nicks, no cuts, smooth. It looked really good. It felt good, and I feel refreshed and fresh.
So here's two things I like about it. I like that it's got its own little headlight so you can see what you're doing. And I like that it's USB charged. You don't have to have a separate charging brick to keep these things charged. And that goes for the nose trimmer too.
Absolutely. And it's waterproof. I didn't know that. And I read all this stuff beforehand. It's waterproof. You can do this in the shower, man. And I tell you, it's revolutionized my grooming experience here. I don't mean to understate that, but it's just the way it is.
And then when you're done, they give you some nice products to help soothe and moisturize and all that other fun stuff. So yeah, hop on Manscaped and use code FRIARS for 20% off.
So for all of you men that want the full grooming experience, look no further than the Manscaped Performance Package 5.0. In the grooming kit, you get the trusted lawnmower, Manscaped's ear and nose hair trimmer, and the essential aftercare products with the crop soother, ball aftershave lotion, and crop preserver anti-chafing ball deodorant.
Yeah, it's deodorant for your balls. Bet you didn't think you needed that. As a gesture for the new year, they even threw in two free gifts: the Boxers 2.0 and the Shed 2.0 toiletry bag, because they know good and well you're still rocking your boxers from high school. They probably have holes in them and stuff. So let's face it, resolutions might come and go, but a well-groomed you is here to stay thanks to Manscaped.
Right. So once again, go to manscaped.com and use the promo code FRIARS for 20% off and free shipping. All right, we're back. Doc, great to have you on. You guys just opened up the facility, and it was the darling of Twitter for several days. We're super excited to have you on. How did the lab come to be?
It was actually a few years in the making. I approached the assistant GM, Josh Stein, who I'm sure you're familiar with.
Oh yeah.
Probably this is definitely pre-COVID. We had a cup of coffee. We're just going. So he's in charge of baseball operations for the Padres, and we have a lot of mutual colleagues. A few of them now work for the Padres organization, and they do the analytics. They work with biomechanics. And as I said, look, this is kind of my area of research. I want to expand what we do at Point Loma and build a state-of-the-art facility, that's dedicated to baseball biomechanics and, of course, other human movement applications. And it turns out that the Padres at the time, they're still kind of trying to catch up to the other organizations that have expanded their analytics department. And rather than trying to do this in-house, they thought, well, why not just collaborate or partner with an academic institution such as Point Loma? We do the kind of the grunt work, the dirty work, if you will. And for us, it's not dirty. We love it. I mean, this is science. This is what we do. Well, they can concentrate on baseball. And so we can interact with each other. We work with their baseball operations teams quite closely. And we provide the information that they can use to make evidence-based decisions on player performance, injury risks and things like that. So, I mean, because of COVID, things kind of just paused for a little bit.
Yeah.
Then fast forward to 2022, like late 2022, we sat down in a room with Josh Stein, AJ Preller, Eric Grubner, and a bunch of other members of the front office, and we just went back and forth, talked about, okay, look, we got this campus over this new campus at Balboa. So this is separate from the main campus. It's about 15 minutes from the main campus over at Point Loma. And it houses the College of Health Sciences. And we had planned to build a facility dedicated for biomechanics. And they said, look, we want to partner, we want to help you out. And lo and behold, we, fast forward, 12 months later, we had our soft opening back in October of 2023. And then, as you know, last week we had our formal ribbon cutting ceremony. So yeah, it's been quite a journey, but a fun one. And we're very excited to see what the lab, what's going to come out the lab in the next few years.
Right. Go down to the lab, check out what's on the slab. Now, I got to ask real quick, though, does it have the great view that you have at PLNU?
Unfortunately, it does not. I mean, we don't have, like, my office is still on the main campus, and I've got a $1 million view of the coast.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I have to give it up eventually because my lab is, my home, and that's,
Right.
Where it is. But we have a great facility. What's unique about the lab, it actually has an outdoor turf area. So it's the 8,000 square foot turf area. And we wanted to do it that way so that the Padres players and even our own players could come in and warm up and train. And if they're coming in to get tested, they can use that area to get activated. We have ply walls on there. We've got J bands and things like that. So once they're warmed and ready to go, they just go through the garage door into our lab and get tested.
Oh, that's great. Well, you talk about testing, and you say laboratory, and it implies research. So a lot of your students there do the grunt work, but they're getting papers written, they're doing reports, you're actually benefiting from the academic side of this laboratory. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. We, even before this lab was built, we have a biomechanics program where graduate students, they obviously take courses in biomechanics and research methods, but they're required to complete a research study as a thesis or a capstone. And those who are interested in this space and want to move on as a sports biomechanist or a biomechanist at a clinical facility have to do these types of research. So they learn the ropes. So this lab gives us multitude of opportunities to not only focus on baseball biomechanics, but just biomechanics of human movement in general. And our number one focus for my grad students and for my colleagues is to perform clinical research and obviously that's biomechanics related, and disseminate that information through national and international conferences and through peer-reviewed research that's published in the scientific journals, for example.
Well, I tell you, I got 2 hips replaced. I got hip dysplasia. I walk like a drunk gorilla. I would not do well in the biomechanics. We're like, you're a mess. You need to go that way.
What's interesting is one of the first things I teach in my biomechanics course is clinical gait analysis. And I ran a gait analysis lab at Rady Children's for many years before coming to Point Loma. So we deal with patients who have issues with walking. I have some kind of gait abnormality because of a neuromuscular disorder, a hip dysplasia, cerebral palsy, and things like that. So biomechanics is used to better understand how humans move because we're able to quantify the 3-dimensional motion of all the joints and segments of the body, and therefore all that information can be used by the clinicians to make some evidence-based decisions on treatment. Right. And in a case for sports, it's about, obviously player performance, enhancing their performance while minimizing the risk of injury.
Yeah. Just to finish up on that, when my doc has me walk, there's a walk where I gotta I gotta walk regularly and not use my hips to walk like a
waddle. Yep.
waddle. My wife will go like, "You're doing the walk." I'm like, "Yes." And I see it on video, and I'm like, I'm walking like a normal person, but to me, it just feels weird. Now,
Right.
you guys focus on perfecting body movements to improve performance and avoid injuries. What exactly? How do you guys do that? With what technology?
That's the goal. So our lab has three-dimensional motion capture. That's the heart of the lab. So it's three-dimensional marker-based and markerless motion capture. We call it a hybrid system. So you might have seen in those movies, such as all the Star Wars trilogy and Avatar, where they place these markers or balls on the body, and they're
Yeah, the
doing
ping
all
pong
kinds of
balls, right?
things. Yeah, all the ping pong balls. Well, that's traditional motion capture, and we do that, and that allows us to three-dimensionally capture each joint and segment of the body in any movement you can think of. There's walking, running, jumping, throwing a baseball, catching, hitting. Nowadays, the motion capture technology has advanced to the point where we don't need those markers anymore. We call it markerless capture. So we have a system. We actually have 3 separate capture volumes in our lab, one dedicated for pitching. You might have seen pictures of our instrumented mound. That's where we have our pitchers throw. We have a runway that's also has force platforms embedded in the runway for walking, running, jumping, jump testing, things like that. And then we have what we call the back cave. That's our hitting bay. And that's where our hitters can come in and they get captured, three-dimensional captured while they're swinging a bat. We've got force platforms on both sides of home plates, so we can measure what's called the ground reaction force when they're swinging. So yeah, it's everything you can think of. I mean, the technology has advanced to the point where we don't need these intrusive, encumbering markers on somebody to capture what they're doing. So it's really cool stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you guys do use it, right? To the bat cave.
To the back cave. Duh, that's where I came on. My geeky self comes out.
Right. And you mentioned Star Wars, so I'm a big Star Wars guy, so I can appreciate
There you
that.
go.
All the green screen and
The green
it
screen,
does.
right? The little dots on the face. Yeah.
um, so what does it feel? So what does the facility look like? Did you have bays, you have pitching mounds? There are
Mhm.
sensors on the mound. So like when you have a foot
Yes.
strike
Yeah.
and then the follow through,
Mhm.
that kind of
Yeah.
shows you where the balance is and everything.
Yeah, so the technology is known as force platforms, and they've actually been around for years, for and not decades. We use them quite a bit for walking, for gates. So any instrumented gait analysis facility or comprehensive gait analysis facility has these force platform technology embedded in the floor. We have 9 of them. We have 3 on the mount itself. So the mount is we customize a practice mound, a professional practice mound, and it has a regulation rubber. There's a force platform underneath the rubber, and there's 2 long force platform down the slope of the mound. So that allows us to measure what I mentioned earlier, those ground reaction force on the drive side or the back leg, as well as the front side, what we call the stride side. So that gives us full dimensional GRFs. What I mean by three-dimensional GRFs, or ground reaction force, is you get components of the ground reaction force in the vertical direction, the front and back direction, and the side-to-side direction, which is what we do when we're walking, we're running, we're walking. So we have those, and I mentioned we have them in the runway, and we have them in the back cave. So we can see how weight transfer from one side to the next when someone is swinging a bat.
That's just amazing. It's just amazing how you can perfect body movements. And so is there any way to quantify that? And this is kind of off the subject. Is there any way to quantify that, that he is, like the mechanics of a pitcher are tightening up or are getting better, or even the mechanics of a hitter? Have you seen some of that kind of translate onto the
Yeah,
field?
so those are everything we collect in the lab is all quantities. They're all data.
Right.
Ground reaction force is a vector. So it has a magnitude, it has a direction, it has numbers. So we use linear algebra to calculate stuff, and Newtonian physics to understand what's going on. So we're trying to understand the relationship between the movement, the forces and torques that cause that movement, what we call the kinematics and kinetic respectively. And because we can do that, we can then make a more objective evaluation of how a person swings a bat or throws a baseball, right, in pitching.
Yeah.
And in pitching, the reason why there's so much focus on the biomechanics of baseball pitching, and you probably know this, is because injuries of the shoulder and elbow are quite prevalent among all levels of baseball pitchers, right? It is actually considered an epidemic in baseball pitching. We're nearly 70%, close to 70% of pitchers at some level have some kind of elbow pain or elbow injury. And that's an issue, right? That's a problem. So, and we know that it's mechanically related. And because there's biomechanics involved, we know that there are risk factors, and because there are biomechanical in nature, there are modifiable in nature. That's why we call them modifiable risk factors. There's other risk factors that are inherent, that are intrinsic, that we can't adjust, that we can't modify, but biomechanics we can. And because of that, we can work with our strength and conditioning team, our athletic training staff, sports medicine, baseball ops, so that we can then modify what an individual does to maximize their performance and minimize their risk of injury.
So, wow. So did you, so we talked a little bit off camera, and you had another college go through there. What,
Yeah.
It's obviously not open to the public, but do you share this technology openly and freely with any other universities? Do you
Yeah,
say,
so
hey, pay at the door and you can help fund the
the
program?
caveat, no, actually we want to be a resource for the community, for San Diego County. The only stipulation, obviously, because we're associated with the Padres, we can't see players from any other organization, right? So any professionals from any other organization, but we can see prospects, amateurs, independent players, college. We have a close relationship with UCSD, SDSU, USD. In fact, we hosted what's called the San Diego Baseball Sports Medicine Society meeting a couple months ago. So we want to make sure that we provide these new technological advances in our lab to helping out players of all levels, outside of the pros, obviously, because we're exclusive to the Padres. But this, San Diego County is a hotbed for baseball players, because a lot of talent here and a lot of young players that, if with the right tools, with the right coaching and good partners, we have real great partners in these baseball facilities. I think we could be a big resource in helping these players get better and obviously safely enhance their performance on the mound or in the batter's box.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The younger they are, only your little league coach or your even travel ball coach only knows so much, and they can they're doing the best they can. But when you put them with that kind of technology, not only does it make them better athletes, but it protects from injury, and how little the little amount of people that become actually professional baseball players is so minute, but having that technology to help the community and being a community partner, I think is really huge. So did you guys go to any other facility similar to what you guys do to kind of see what they do?
I have close relationships, for example, the lab at Wake Forest University. I was there when they first opened up their doors, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I have close relationship some colleagues at Driveline Baseball up in Washington. In fact, I've sent them students, and a couple of them have been hired full time. Curlin Job Orthopedic Center in Santa Monica, who they provide all the clinical service, sports med clinical service for the Dodgers, Lakers, Angels, and they have a lab. One of my former students runs that lab. So yes, we, I make phone calls, make some visits. There's a lab over at the University of Nebraska in Omaha. They do pitching. I've also chatted with the Orioles. The Baltimore Orioles has a lab at MedStar, and the reason why that was unique, because they were the first organization to team up with an outside institution, an academic institution at that. So I modeled kind of what I was trying to do here at Point Loma with what Joey and the guys over there at the Orioles facility were doing. And theirs is mainly a pitching lab. Ours is both pitching and hitting. So we wanted to expand on that. And the Padres are, fortunately for us, they were 100% on board.
Yeah. This is my hometown. This is my hometown team. Obviously, we're big fans. I love the community partner that Peter Seidler and the Padres have been ever since he's really taken over ownership. Him and Ron Fowler. And it's okay that you guys can model with the Baltimore Orioles. They're in the American League. We don't nothing from the
and we're in the East Coast, exactly. Not a problem.
And on a little side note, that we're looking to move my wife and I are looking to move out to Winston-Salem in the next couple of years, probably next year. And I work for a D1 school, so I'm looking to probably work either Wake Forest or UNC Greensboro or even High Point.
Right.
So when that comes, I'll shoot you a text.
Definitely. Yeah. I'll make some introductions. You can visit the lab. You got to come to visit our lab. Yeah. So, we'll talk offline. Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. We do have a YouTube channel, and that's why we're doing this live here via Zoom. So I'll be posting this interview there as well. Okay, so 2022, you guys made it to the NCAA the NCAA World Series. How does the facility compare to finishing there?
Well, here's the thing: is that I'm sure you know, Point Loma is we're a small Christian institution.
Yeah.
We're Division II at that. But Coach Justin James, who was also a pitching coach at UCSD at one point a few years ago, he's all about these numbers. He's all about analytics. So I like picking his brain quite a bit, just on strategy and pitch types and grips and things like that. And in return, I tell him, okay, this is how you can use the biomechanics data to help your players, your pitchers and hitters. So yeah, they probably have been using the lab just as much, if not more, as the Padres have since we had our soft opening back in October. Especially with the recent rains that have been happening, it just worked out for them that they can come in and do their normal bullpens, their live ABs, hitting all of that in the lab and get some reps in while we're collecting data. So it's really cool stuff. It's a great relationship that we have with both the Padres and PLNU baseball teams. And that's what I'm going to grow. And I think it's obviously a competitive advantage for Point Loma because we're D2, and I'm not aware of any other D2 programs that have a facility like that. I mean, the facility like we have, like I mentioned, Wake Forest, LSU has one, Arkansas, Mizzou. So yeah, having this facility available to our team is beneficial for the team, obviously, but for us, we get to collect data.
Now, UCSD just went D1. Is there any talk of you guys going to D1 in the future?
I don't know. We're such a small school that I don't see us kind of drifting in that direction, but you never know. I mean, we were once D3 at one point. In fact, UCSD was Division III many years ago, right? So but right now I think we have a pretty competitive conference and league, and we have our rivals APU, for example, Azusa Pacific. So they're like our Dodgers in a way. So we have APU week, the same way that we used to have Raider week, right? When the Raiders in town. So it's very similar to that. But yeah, it's fun what we're doing right now, and they won another game today, so they're still number one in conference. Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time. Is there now that you've been up and running, can you share any stories about the players or coaches that have come through so far? What's something that's impressive or unusual? Maybe something that you've discovered that you didn't think you would discover?
Let me see. I mean, our relationship with Coach Niebla and the team and Rob and Ben Fritz and all those guys, it's never been stronger. In fact, I think it's only been emboldened the last couple of years. And prior to us opening, we were still active. We would actually set up our equipment at spring training. We're actually going to spring training next month. Nice. So it's a mobile unit. It's a portable unit that we can bring at these facilities, and we've been doing that for the Padres for the last 2 or 3 years already. So this just kind of solidifies that relationship and not strengthen it even more. And Ruben Niebla, for example, and all these other guys, they're all about the numbers. And I mentioned, I always emphasize is that all this data, all these biomechanics, these kinematic and kinetic data is only as good as the interpretations that are made off them, right? You have to be able to compare them to either normative data or to some type of criteria. And Ruben and that crew, they're really good about just taking little tidbits here and there and using them to make some tweaks, some right decisions about each individual player. Because there's literally troves of data that we can provide for them. And there's like, hey, let's take a step back. If we're working with Joe, we're working with Darvish, we're working with, Michael King or Brito or all these guys, some like Drew Thorpe who's coming up, and said, well, I just want to focus on A, B, and C. And then our job as biomechanists to operation define what A, B, and C means from a biomechanical perspective so that he can make the right decision about what to do about this player. So they're really good about that. I remember my first experience a couple of years ago where they invited us to Petco, and I was able to bring all my grad students with me, and they wanted to go over all these reports that we had just generated for them from tests that we conducted the week prior. And we spent a good 3 hours just talking about baseball, talking about biomechanics, talking about tweaks. I mean, it was fun. It was just a good powwow. I mean, they were learning, we were learning as from them as much as they're learning from us, which is really great. So I think that really, and that holistic approach is what makes this work. It's not just the biomechanics. That's an important part. That's just a small part. It only works if strength and conditioning, the athletic training staff, the coaching staff, all are all on the same page. They have great synergy so that they, at the end of the day, be able to benefit the players that they're trying to help and have a competitive edge.
Yeah, and that's the thing about having this data. It can be for players, the translation from data to player has got to be clear and concise. And
Right.
uh, me, I just need to be simple. Like, what do I need to do? Okay, you need to do this,
Sure.
A, B, or C, not all this other information where it can really cloud the mind of a player. It can cloud the mind of a coach.
Exactly.
Well, we really
You know what's
appreciate
interesting too, and I, 100%, and we typically want to make sure I don't want to say dumb it down, we simplify and
right.
give just the take home messages, right, the highlights. But these younger players are so used to technology that some of them won't even pitch without a TrackMan unit, right? I just remember being in spring training, Bob Melvin say, "Hey, can you calling up this guy? Can you go and throw in a bullpen?" He goes, "No, I can't. I got to wait for my TrackMan unit guy to come in." So they want their numbers, right?
Right,
So
right.
they're so used to these numbers, and it helps them, which is awesome because now they're learning. It's not just numbers to them. It's something that they can. I mean, how many years ago? Like
It's a tool. That's
5 years ago,
absolutely
it's a tool. Exactly. 5 years ago, you would never heard of spin rates and horizontal vertical breaks and things like that. Now that we can measure that with TrackMan, Rapsodo, Hit Tracks, and Hawkeye with that feed Statcast and this all these major league stadiums, players are used to it. So they, like you said, it's a tool. As long as you use that tool correctly, it could be beneficial for that athlete.
So we're a minor league podcast or a content creator. Is there any talk of maybe going up to Lake Elsinore, helping some of the guys in A-ball, or would they come down to you?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if I should share this, but two of my grad students just got hired by the Padres organization full time, and they'll be work. One of them is going to be basically planted at Lake E. So he'll be at Lake Elsinore. But yeah, we've actually seen a few from the affiliates from Fort Wayne, from El Paso, from Lake Elsinore. It's because the team want to know. They want their baseline data. We'll see how, and this is where it's valuable because as they progress, we want to see what are those changes in their biomechanics that correlate or predict what they're doing on the mound. That this slider or this cutter is more effective because of A, B, and C. And I can go back. Hey, we saw Arte last year, or Lesko, or recently Drew Thorpe, and then we've got their baseline numbers to which everything else that we're doing from this point on can be compared.
Arte, friend of the podcast.
Yep.
Haven't had Lesko on. He wasn't there long enough, but we go up to Lake Elsinore a lot, and I do a lot of interviews. Yep. So I'll seek out your guy that's there and give him a shout out. Hey,
please.
Yeah, absolutely. We really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to talk to us. We'll talk off camera to do something, maybe have a time to go there and check out a session, maybe take a little bit of video to have for our YouTube channel. We really appreciate you taking the time, Arnel. And I just can't, your success is, as a fan, your success is my success. Not only for the Padres, but also for college baseball here in San Diego. Yeah. I work for UCSD, but I root for baseball teams and all the colleges here and all the players here in San Diego I root for. And we just can't wait to see what you could do with the technology that you have at your hands. We really appreciate it.
I'm excited. Yeah. I mean, especially with students, like you said earlier, that they get this exposure and they're going out there. They're actually getting jobs. I have 12 alums that come from the lab that are working full time for Major League Baseball organizations and other pro sports. So, you know, that's our number one goal is to foster the relationship, obviously, with the Padres, but also to, you know, to mentor these future biomechanists. I am on the forefront of promoting the science, but I also want to promote biomechanics as a vocation. That, like, look, you can actually be a biomechanist, a sports biomechanist for, you know, a team or in, you know, a hospital, which a lot of, you know, students coming in never heard of the term, right? So, you know, hopefully this kind of pushes that needle in that direction.
Absolutely. Well, we really appreciate it.
Of course, thanks for having me.
We can do anything that